What is a virus?
Well, a virus is a snippet of a nucleic acid, either DNA or RNA, that's made up of a certain number of genes that is characterized by the feature of being able to replicate itself only within other cells. It doesn't have the capability of free living like a bacteria. It has to insert itself into a cell and capture the machinery of that particular cell to replicate itself. It is capable of causing disease. Some viruses are benign. Some viruses cause serious diseases like polio and smallpox and measles. Those are all viruses, and they all have molecular characteristics of being made up of either DNA or RNA.
What is the 2009 H1N1 Influenza A?
Well, the new and novel 2009 H1N1 Influenza A is a brand new influenza virus that we've never really had any experience with before. We've never seen it before. It has evolved by its molecular makeup from genes that have rearranged themselves or reassorted themselves from multiple viral species, from influenza viruses that infect pig or swine, from influenza virus that infects birds, and from influenza virus that infects humans. And somewhere along the way, and we don't know how, likely within a pig, these genes resorted themselves and came up with a predominantly molecular signature of a pig virus. That's why people tend to call it swine flu, even though that's a somewhat misleading name because it hasn't been infecting swine predominantly. But it is a brand new virus, and its genetic makeup is such that we have not seen anything like that before with influenza viruses.
Are there effective vaccines? And if not, how are vaccines developed?
Well, there certainly is no effective vaccine because we just became aware of this brand new virus a few weeks ago. It's been isolated and characterized, and we certainly intend to move forward to make a vaccine against this novel H1N1 Influenza A. The steps in making a vaccine are pretty well determined. You first isolate the virus, which has been done, and characterize it. And then you grow up what's called seed viruses or reference strains, where you get the virus to grow in a certain media, in this case eggs or perhaps in cell lines, grow up to the point where it's a robust grower, and then you hand it over to pharmaceutical companies who then grow it up in large amounts to be able to first be used in clinical trials to determine A, is it safe, B, does it induce an immune response that you would predict would be protective, and C, what is the proper dosage and number of doses. And at that point, depending upon how the epidemic or pandemic, whatever, evolves, you'll make a decision how much you want to make and whether or not you want to administer. So the very first steps of that process are already been done, namely isolating the virus and growing up the seed stocks.
How does a vaccine work?
Well, a vaccine works by stimulating the body to make an immune response against the virus before the body actually sees the virus. So if you get a vaccine, there are multiple different types of vaccine. The most common way is to get a virus, grow it up in a form that you can get a lot of it, and then inactivate it completely so that it's incapable of causing any harm, inject it into a person so they'll build up an immune response that will be ready to attack the real virus when they come into contact with it in the regular environment.
What kinds of flu research does NIAID conduct?
Well, NIAID conducts a wide range of influenza research, from the fundamental basic virology, the molecular virology, understanding pathogenesis, working with animal models, determining the molecular signatures of virus and how that relates to what we call virulence, transmissibility, epidemiology. We also are very actively involved in the screening of drugs and the targeted development of drugs against influenza. And finally, we have a major effort in the development of vaccines and different types of vaccines for influenza.
How would you define pathogenesis?
Pathogenesis means how this particular virus causes disease. What is the mechanism whereby it harms someone? That's what we mean by pathogenesis. What is the genesis or the underlying mechanism of how you cause pathology or disease?